Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Kimball Musk is the brother of Elon Musk, and in 2011 he founded an organization called Big Green. And the purpose of this organization was to encourage individuals to help community members and children get exposed to gardening and the benefits of growing our own food, whether they're psychological, therapeutic, or just for the benefit of education and learning. You can learn more about Big Green by going to biggreen.org, but this video isn't so much about what this organization is about. It's about the DAO that Kimball Musk is now wanting to use to potentially lead to decentralized finance and blockchain, making decisions in terms of who gets funding from the Big Green nonprofit. I did receive a message from Kimball Musk with a link to his white paper on, or I should say, light paper on exactly what this DAO is, how it's going to operate, how decentralized it actually will be, and I spent a few hours going through it. I don't fully understand everything, so it is entirely possible that I may make a mistake, and I don't like to make mistakes, but I'm going to do my absolute best to go through this. And if you're familiar with anything in here, please feel free to reach out and correct me in the comments down below. But let's go ahead and work on this together right now. Quick note, the programs on building your wealth do have a coupon code expiring tonight at 11:59 p.m. Black Friday coupon code. Enjoy your Black Friday. Let's get into this DAO document though here. So take a look at this. So Big Green is a 501c3 nonprofit. This, the reason I mention this is this becomes extremely important because there are many references throughout this light paper that essentially say it is very important for this company to be considered a 501c3, so that way individuals who make donations, whether in the future through cryptocurrency or with fiat, can receive a tax donation for contributing to this organization. I think, unfortunately, this is one of the things that is going to end up keeping this DAO more of a cow? Can we say that, or is that insulting? More of a centralized autonomous organization? But there's some really cool things that I think are going to come out of the first year that this DAO is in operation. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how this works. So first, they're calling this an experiment. And what they want to do is democratize and decentralize philanthropy, which the last thing I want to hear more about is people democratizing stuff. After Robinhood, I'm a little over that one, but that's okay. I don't blame them for saying that. And what they're going to do is they're going to use ERC20 governance tokens to try to essentially give the community the ability to decide where money goes. Now here they talk about what a DAO is and how there is no central decision-making authority. I have a little bit of beef with this though, based on how things are structured in this DAO. We're probably going to be a lot more centralized here, but for experimentation purposes, this could be the new frontier for how nonprofits operate. Because remember, if nonprofit funding is distributed through blockchain, now all of a sudden you have complete transparency of what's actually going on at nonprofits. See, one of the disasters of nonprofits is that a lot of people have this failure of trust that, hey, if I donate to a certain nonprofit, what if 90% is just going to pay the salaries and executives of these organizations, and only 10 cents out of every dollar I donate is actually going to the charitable cause, right? That would be very frustrating, and that is one of the things that people see blockchain as a potential solution for. But how cool would it be to actually have a decentralized organization be able to vote on which company or other organization wants funding, and the community can ultimately vote and decide, well, we want to give money to that group or that group or that group. We resonate with their message versus theirs. Kind of interesting. I think the concept and the experiment would be very, very cool. Let's go through some of the details as to how it works. We're not going to go through absolutely everything in here, but I'm going to give you the really big highlights. So first, there's going to be, there are going to be two pieces of this. So piece number one is the DAO committee. And then piece number two is the DAO community. So here's how this works. Anytime somebody donates money to Big Green and the DAO, the community is going to get, that person or organization that's donating is going to get one garden token. So they're going to get one garden token, and that will allow them to vote in community votes. But what I thought was interesting is the way this light paper actually is listed is that the executives over at the DAO committee also get one garden token. And so most of the decisions in terms of where money ends up going from this nonprofit are made via a 2/3 vote. So let's say you have a community of 1,000 garden tokens because 500 people or organizations donated money, and then 500 garden tokens were given to the community, and 500 garden tokens were given to the committee. Well, now you need that entire pie to get to 67%, and then they can decide on which organization to give money to. The beef that I have here is that the DAO committee has two opportunities to have massive influence on this. The DAO committee, which is presumably going to be a group of 5 to 6 individuals or organizations that are picked or appointed by Kimball Musk, or maybe other people around him, these folks will already have 50% of the community vote. Remember, they're getting 1-for-1 community votes for every donation. So 500 donations, 500 organizations donate. Each organization or donor gets 1 token. The committee also gets 1 token. Now, 500 times 2 means you have 1,000 tokens. If the committee has half of those, and you need 670 votes to get to a decision-making authority, well, the committee already has 50% sway. Like, I'm sorry, no, they have more than that. You divide 500 divided by 670, so assuming the committee votes together, the committee has already reached, let's see, 500 divided by 670 needed votes, the committee has already reached 74.6% of what they need to get to have control of where the money ends up going. So that was one of the first things I noticed that made me scratch my head a little bit, like, okay, we got a little bit of work to do on the decentralization portion. But I think it's very interesting because one of the things they do mention is that every donor, no matter how much they donate, will only get 1 garden token. And they want to make sure that individuals can't transfer these tokens, so that way there's less of a chance of some bad actor taking advantage of collecting a bunch of coins and then misdirecting the nonprofit funding, right? That's obviously not good. We talked a little bit about their goals with gardening and that earlier. Here's some more details here about a 2/3 majority vote of the DAO community and 2/3 majority ratification by the DAO committee to change principles or governance. The DAO committee here has a lot of power. That's why I think this one's a little heavily centralized. But again, it's an experiment of using DAO technology, so I respect that. And I think if you're going to get involved in this DAO, you really just have to trust Kimball Musk and the committee members that are chosen. Now, there are ways for the community to kind of like vote or issue a vote of no confidence against individuals who are in the committee. But votes of no confidence in DAO, I don't know if they're necessarily going to directly turn into, okay, Kimball's going to pick somebody else in that spot, right? And there are many people to pick from. But anyway, take a look at some of the neat things here. So they're trying to be as transparent as possible. They're saying, look, we're going to start with $1 million, and we're going to give out $800,000 in grants. We're going to use $200,000 for coming up with all of the documents, the paperwork, and the infrastructure that we need for our DAO. And the goal is once they have an architecture that they can use, that they can take more donations and spread more money out, right? Right here is where you'll notice the DAO community formation. Each donor that donates funds and each organization that receives funds receives 1 garden governance token. Now, again, if one recipient gets 1 token, that's virtually relatively meaningless, I feel like. They really only would use that token to end up burning as a way of trying to apply for more funding in the future. So really, it's the donors who are getting the voting right, plus, right here, the DAO committee members also receive 1 garden token, right? And of course, here's where you could see that regardless of the grant or donation size, these tokens will also have strict parameters to prevent token holders from transferring ownership. They're really trying to prevent somebody from taking over the nonprofit, right? And this makes a lot of sense. And they've got a lot of controls in here to make sure of that. Now, you'll also notice that they're going to end up using the snapshot platform for voting. This is very, very common for DAOs. You link your wallet, and then you go to vote. Voting is very, very important if you're part of this. They've got a few different methods for voting as well. Ranked choice is likely going to be the most popular method that they end up using for voting. And one of the benefits, I'm going to jump to it, one of the benefits of ranked choice voting over here is that it really prevents mutual exclusivity. So I'm going to give you a quick little example of that. Let's say you hate Donald Trump, and this is not to be political at all. Let's just say whatever you want, no matter what, you do not want Donald Trump as president, right? But you kind of would prefer a Yang or Romney as president. Well, with the voting system that we have in America, which is you get one vote, and if your person doesn't win, you lose your vote, you're kind of disincentivized from voting for Yang or Romney. The reason is if you spend your vote on them and then Biden gets less votes, then it's potentially more likely that Trump wins, right? So ranked choice voting says that, hey, maybe you have 3 choices. Just rank your top 3 choices. And you might go in here and go, fine, 1, 2, 3. Or you might say, hey, well, I actually want one of these moderates, or maybe not necessarily moderates, but somebody in the middle, or maybe not even in the middle, whatever. In this picture middle, I'm trying to be politically neutral, okay? It's so hard to do these days. It's crazy. But anyway, let's say you're like, well, I kind of really want Romney, but I'd be okay with Yang, and then I'll take Biden over Trump, for example, right? If you do that kind of example, now if Romney gets kicked out, your vote automatically goes to Yang. If Yang doesn't make it, your vote automatically goes to Biden. It's not like you lost your vote voting on a less popular idea. And they're planning on using this for voting for who's going to get funding in the charity, which I actually think is really cool. In fact, take a look at this. What they want to do is they want to streamline how people request funding. You start with a 1 to 2 sentence overview of your proposal on Twitter, and you attach a picture of like a 300-word description, and you explain your motivations and whatever, and a budget, and then they set up a voting period, which voting is pretty stringent, and this is very, very common for the Snapshot platform. They do make voting pretty intensive. You could see how voting would work here. Now, this is just an example of voting. They use the Uniswap system just to give you an example, where on Uniswap, for example, before a proposal is implemented or some rules change, or for example, you would, as a charity, give money away, you'd have a 4-day period to do your initial voting, 4 days to do consensus voting, and then a full 7 days thereafter to do your finalized voting. These are just examples exhibited in the back here. This gives you a little bit of an overview of how they want to break this down. One thing that I did think was interesting here is the DAO committee, via 2/3 vote of the committee, can actually override any decision or veto any decision of the community. So again, really gives a lot of power to the committee here, right? Now, over here, individuals in the community can vote or issue a vote of no confidence of a DAO committee member. But then, of course, over here, you would end up having appointments or nominations, maybe I should say, nominations, not appointments. You'd have the DAO committee nominating new members, and then the community would vote. But then again, ultimately, they'd be voting on somebody that the committee selected, right? So a lot of this still very, very centralized. I see this as a lot more of an experiment than something that's actually decentralized nonprofit. But I love it. Like, I think this is a very, very cool experiment, and I'm all for it because it means people are going to be submitting proposals for donations related to Big Green style projects. And we're really going to use blockchain-style technology to evaluate deals, decentralize the evaluation of those deals, try to find out where the popularity is. And I think as long as the committee is in it for the right reasons, which I believe they are with Kimball Musk, then they can really let the community take the first shot at votes and deciding, even though they are also going to have control of a lot of the garden tokens. Now, it does say that your Gov tokens will be burned as a community member, which the only Gov token I really found was the governance token known as Garden. And so it seems like that'll be burned if you end up missing a couple votes. Oh, yep, actually right here. Organizations must use their Garden token to vote in each quarterly proposed cycle. In the event an organization does not vote in 2 consecutive cycles, which a cycle is a quarter, their token will be disempowered or burned. this is really a mechanism to make sure that it's an easy way for people to opt out of the process. But it also makes sure that they have the proper percentage of active voters, because if, for example, you had 50% of people that just weren't active, how are you ever going to get to 67%? You'd have to basically burn these people out. So that way there's still some opportunity to actually make progress here. So, I hope I understood this as well as I think I do. I know there are probably some holes in my explanation here. I don't profess to be perfect at understanding the DAO that Kimball Musk here is creating. I do recognize that A, this is an experiment. B, I think it's a good cause. C, I think it's got a great leader. D, I think this is a great way of evaluating if community members are actually interested in donating to projects and then basically having their funding or having a say in where their funding goes. It's a great test for all of that together. Now, also worth noting that the donation criteria is going to be pretty strict when it first starts. Take a look at this. You got donation tiers. First, they're going to start with $1 million donations. Then they'll go down to $100,000 donations. And they're really trying to make this difficult up front, so that way it's very or potentially impossible for a bad actor to take control of too many tokens and then potentially misallocate funding. So you can see a little bit more broken down here. All donors are required to go through KYC, which is Know Your Customer. So that's social security number, date of birth, name, address, all that good stuff. So there are a lot of aspects of this being a tax deduction and being a charity that kind of take away a lot of the D in DAO, especially since you can't let it basically all be open to the community, but it's a good first step. And I think this really opens the door to good news for decentralized finance in nonprofit fundraising. I think this is really cool. I support this project. I'm behind it. Let me know what you think down below. I think it's really cool. I'd like to hear from you. I'll check the comments. Thanks so much. Check out the programs on building your wealth with that Black Friday coupon code expiring tonight, and we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.